This just feels like I'm holding a Black Johnson in my mouth. Like I'm ready. I'm this close, ready to deep throat this microphone. Anyway, it's just. I feel like I just woke up at the dentist's office again after like I went to sleep, and I just wake up and I just like feel this thing in my face. Anyway, back to reality. It's like a workout. You ever? I don't know if you ever seen those things, the shake waves. You see them in videos, but like the thing that just shakes in your face like this. That's what I feel like I'm doing right now. I need a better stand. This is horrible. Anyway, back to reality. You know, as a child, now in my 40s, probably in my 50s, I never, there's just a time. There's just a time. I never thought about this. Or I never imagined my life would be like this. Where, I'm sleeping, have a good night's rest, had a good night, and I'm in a good warm bed. I slept in, had a good night, and I'm facing the window. Sun's coming in, it's coming at me, it's waking me up naturally as I should. And as I'm opening my eyes, it's probably like 7 or 8. It comes to a time where I just never thought I would ask myself this question. This a hard question, because sometimes it's just hard to ask as a man. But as I open my eyes, I stretch and I roll over, I really never thought I would have to ask the person next to me how many fingers they put in my ass. Because, goddamn, you just you just don't realize that as a man. Anyway, and welcome to another episode of A Few Minutes with Myself, the Jesus. Just the other day, I was just thinking, and I always think about this, but this time it just really just like slapped me in the face, right? And I really started thinking about this as I like watching the kid shows where the kids play sports, right, on Netflix. I don't know if they still do or not, but they used to have this show where they would show like little league kids play football, and they take them on the journey, season, coaches and the players, and whatever they do, they would just show their season, win or lose, good or bad. And I think even Snoop Dogg came up with the show, a little league show with the football show. And it was a good show, good show. You watch these kids, and as a kid, as myself, the stallion I am, I always thought, like, man, I always wanted to play football. I always wanted to play football. But the equipment's expensive. We ain't got no money for that, It's just hard, It's either you got to buy tortillas or you got to buy equipment. And, Mexicans love tortillas. So, woo. Anyway, so, never played football. But anyway, and I was watching the other day, as a father of 13 kids, I'm in my 40s and 50s, as a Mexican, you got to start popping them, you got to look at them and pop them, and you keep on moving. So as a father of like 20 kids, I was watching The Pit on Max, and it came up with this feeling. I came up with this feeling again that it's just crazy that at any moment, you kind of, as much as you try to prevent things, you can't prevent what is it called? The inedible? Is it the inevitable? Inevitable? There's just the shit you just can't control, right? That's what I'm trying to say. You just can't control some things. As much as you want, especially as a parent, how much you want to protect and, control certain situations in life. You just can't. And when it comes to, especially when I was watching the football show with the little leaguers, little gooblers, gobblers, little fuckers, just the wrong hit, the wrong thing, it can end the kid's life. Concussions. And, the first image that I get, there was a little chubby, like 10-year-old, maybe 11-year-old, little chubby Mexican kid. You got to focus on your people. And he got hit in the head really hard, and he was out. He was done for the count. He was concussed, and you could tell, like, the parents they didn't have insurance, but you can tell that was it. And in the show, The Pit, there was a dad. His son came in, underage, 16, and he got a line drive, got hit in the eye, and it could have been, basically, he could have been blinded for the rest of his life, even though he was like this what could be like a next superstar. I don't know a lot of baseball, but I guess he could have been like the next Sammy Sosa, without going white, or the next Barry Bonds without the drugs, or Terry McGuire or something like that, right? Maybe like a Ichiro, but he was white, so like, what's a white baseball player? Babe Ruth, right? But it just came to me like, damn, no matter what you try to do, protect your son, your kids, at any moment, it could be taken away. And that's just, I know it's part of life, but it's just crazy to think about, if you're a parent, mother, father, or, undecided, or what they say now, like, you just don't want to say it, unpreferred or non-preferred. What's it called? That's, male, female, or you just don't want to say, your parent's a parent, you got kids, gooblers, gobblers, pets, it just, there's just some things you can't control, and it's just crazy. Because I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine. We were just having a few beers, sipping on some craft beers, and we're passing the crack pipe back and forth, and we're just like, man, one of these cars are not gonna make it. Like, I just know it. Like, one of these, it's just crazy thing because there's a lot of traffic and they're just coming through. We're just looking. We're on the second floor and we're looking overhead, and I'm just wondering, like, imagine if I just fell. Like, I'm just imagining my body just hitting the ground, and like if my neck would break, And I'm just like, man, one of these cars are just not gonna make it, And she's like, you're fucked up, and I was like, why? It's probably true. You just think about it, like in traffic, and people get mad at traffic, and we all do. I get mad. I hate all these drivers that can't drive. Comes a moment where you're just passing the accident. You're like, that's a fucked up accident. You're like, damn, thank God it wasn't me. Thank God it wasn't me. Like 2, 3, 4 cars. You see a body on the stretcher being pulled in, and people crying, which is normal. And it's like, yeah, sometimes we don't. We live in this fast life. We live in this fast life, especially when you're smoking crack and everything just going really fast. You're just on speed and fucking acid, and you just miss things, and you just don't appreciate or grateful that you made it home. You made it home. You're like, oh, no DUI, thank God. But just if you're not like a criminal or anything, like, you just don't think about the small things, like, oh, I made it home, get to come home and watch Survivor, or complain about how the maintenance man didn't come in and fix my garbage disposal or something. It's easy to just pick at things that things didn't go right in our day, but we're just not grateful for the small things, because we just forget how precious our lives really are, and how thankful we should be. And I'm not trying to be corny at all, right? But especially when it comes to our kids, because I know out of my 30 kids, one of them is probably just gonna be stupid, and not really reach its potential. But the stupidity I have to be thankful of, because the stupidity of that child, it's going to be a gift to me. But like, man, you're stupid. But man, you got a good heart, And you got the stripper daughter or stripper man, I'm not sexist. Men could be strippers too. You're like, I'm thankful that you're financially supported, that you're there to support yourself. Whether you're swinging dick or swinging the fat pussy, you're happy and you're stable. And we're just not thankful for the small things. And I think sometimes we just gotta remember that. I don't want to say I'm on this pathway of righteousness, because as Jesus, the path is always there, and the path is always aligned with myself. But as a man, I am a man from the day I was born, right? I didn't have to decide I was a man today, but fuck it, I did. I don't even know where I was going with this. But I'll end it with this. I was listening to this book because I'm dyslexic and I can't read. And, when I read things, I just see like everything just, when I read things, just the words all just jumble up and say things that I wanted to say, because, even in my reading, I'm dominant. But in this book I was listening to on Audible about improving yourself, sometimes you gotta take a deeper look. It just talked about, it said something corny, but it was correct, And no matter where you are in your state of mind, because sometimes you might think like, oh, I've worked so hard and things have not been coming for me, or you just feel like people forgot about you, or God forgot about you in a spiritual sense, and both figuratively and emotionally. And the Big Sean book called Get Higher, and he stopped smoking. So, I know he's not talking drugs, but it really spoke to me, because he said, God comes at the right time. He's never at the wrong time. And when things happen, you're supposed to be surprised. Because even when Jesus was on the cross and he was like, fuck, bro. Like, he was like, fuck, you forgot about me. You forsaken me. It's like, I didn't know you were really going to go through with it. He was surprised. He was surprised. So when things happen to you, you should be surprised. You shouldn't just automatically think like things are going to happen to you, because, sometimes things don't happen to you. And you just have to accept it, move forward, and keep pushing on. Because if you don't push on, then you run out of gas. And it tires you out. But anyway, that's it for me today. I'm gonna go ahead and put this black penis down, because of man or female. If you ever held a black penis with one hand, it gets heavy after a while. So you just gotta like both hands on it. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and fix this background sooner or later. Technology is not my foreskin. But anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for everything. And depending on the time you listen to it, have a good day, good night, good morning, good evening, good everything. And remember, at the end of the day, no matter what you can control or can't control, everything's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be all right. Yeah. Bob Marley said that. I wasn't thinking about Bob Marley. I was just thinking like, When you're tired, when you're on the highway and your tire blows out and you don't even know if you have the other flat tire or the twos, and you're just sitting there fucking crying, and you're like, fuck. And this is before YouTube and stuff like that. You're like, I don't know if I can change this tire, and you're scared of being raped and molested out there on the fucking highway, at the end of the day, things gonna be all right, Someone's gonna come, help you out, maybe. Yeah. One love, 3 and 1. Watch out. Anyway, like I said,